Hi, I'm Mike from in3.de. Niels Cut, friend of mine from postproduction.net, he asked me to do a tutorial on how to create fragments like that by the movement of camera into a readable text like that one. So let's do that one. I'll reset everything. I'm going to do everything in 3ds Max, but most of the techniques that I'm showing over here should also be applicable in another package. So let's create a text object over here. Call that post production tutorials. Select everything, select the correct font that he gave me. It was something with OKLMNO, that one, and it's going to be bold. And the new text object also has a built-in geometry option, so holding Control to make the movement here a bit faster, I'll give that some thickness. Now we got our text. Alt W for full screen, J to get rid of these selection frames, and go to movement and do right click over here so that we are sure everything is directly on 0. So somehow this has to be separated into pieces. If I'm doing a search for 3ds Max fracture, because that is what we want to do, I'll find several results, and I think one of them shall be Squid Spot. Squid Spot is a great source for scripts and tools for 3ds Max. If you are going in Max into the welcome screen, you can see, as soon as it appears, on the front you have Learn, to learn how to use Max, tips and tricks. Then you have all your scenes, startup templates, and you get an extended several resources where you also find the link to Squid Spot. So let's get rid of that one again. So I'm going to take this fracture Voronoi, which actually used the Voronoi code to break up objects like that. So we'll scrub down here, go to download. I want to save the file. I already downloaded it, but I'm going to download it again. Yes, I want to take that one. And I can now go directly from the folder or here from the download section, drag and drop that directly into 3ds Max, and I've got my script over here with its UI. I'm going to pick the object. I'd like to divide that 10 times. Each part again should be divided twice. Comes up to 100 pieces, so I can break that into 100 pieces. It will automatically create a new folder and hide the original object. So all these parts here are now each their own piece. Now we need to somehow position that in space. I could go and do all this manually, but life is much easier if you have the chance of doing that automatically. So I'll move over to my folder where I have my scripts, and I download another script called TransRandom, which does random transforms. So I'm going to place that in Max again, get that one over here, select all of those, and I would like to position them in the y-axis from, let's say, over here to over here. And if you check down here, you see the amount. Here we have 600, back here we have 800. So roughly that's going to be from minus 600 to positive 600, and I only like to move in the y-axis. No rotation, no scaling. You could add that too, but let's stay like that and click Go Random. And now I've got these pieces spread all over the place. I see that's a bit too much, so let's undo that again and go down to 100 and spread them like that. Much better, much easier to see. We don't need that one anymore. I don't need this one at the moment. and this is how it looks at chaotic. And if I look from the front, it looks more or less okay. So let's position that roughly where the camera should be and use the Control-C shortcut to create a camera from view. The camera itself is selected. Let's check out the position. And definitely I do not want to have a target camera, I want to have a free camera. So let's put that to 0. Y we'll leave as it is at the moment because that's this direction, and we'll take that to 0 too. Still looks a bit weird, but we'll see. Now the text still looks strange. I think the camera might also be rotated. Yep, so let's turn that to 90 and right click on that one for lowest value. Now everything looks better. We still are not able to read the text at the moment. So if I go for P, perspective view, I can zoom out a little bit and Control right click. Let's create a box in here. So using U for user view or orthographic view, if I zoom onto that box and rotate that accordingly, you can see that these sidelines are totally straight. If I hit P, it changed a little bit, and now we see the perspective distortion. So from our perspective view, everything gets a bit smaller in the back side. And that is exactly the problem that we're having over here. If we look from here, of course, everything gets a little bit smaller in the back, and so we get some distortion in there. So C, camera view, select all those, choose a new modifier, T for taper. I know taper is the first T word in here. Select that one and change the settings. Modifiers often do something weird that I don't want in the beginning, so I just do a setting and then figure out the axis, which is quite easy over here. I see the Z axis, I see the X axis, I don't see the Y axis, so I guess Y goes into the depth over here, and that is probably the axis I need. And I can now start change these settings over here. I for now just look that these sidelines are fine enough. Holding Alt gives me final control in setting this up, something like that, and it looks almost okay. Still a bit distortion in there. So let's select the camera, select camera, go to move, do a right click on move, which is basically the same thing as F12, and I can now change the position of the camera. Again over here, hold Control to do faster movements. So move everything until it looks nice, and that is now the final position of our camera. Let's get rid of that one. Turn on auto key. The camera is still selected. Auto key. And that is the position I'd like to have back here on the last frame. So let's go somewhere over here. Take some of these orbit tools. Rotate the camera a little bit. Go into the dolly camera. Zoom in a little bit. Middle mouse button to pan. And now we made this animation. Of course, this is supposed to be in that position, so I'll just take that key over here and I'll move it to the end of my timeline, and we've got this animation. So let's do some more action in here. Zoom a little bit like that, something like that. I hope it's not getting too wild. That's okay. Let's get over here. Alt Z is for zooming. Control R is for orbit, if you don't want to go down here all the time, but use the shortcuts instead. Something like that. Go to this frame, rotate a bit more, Alt Z, zoom somewhere in here. Get over here, zoom there, Control R, orbit. Something like that maybe, and orbit a bit more. Zoom out so we see where we are, somewhere over there. And let's see what kind of animation we made. It's a bit chaotic, maybe a bit too close, but that's okay. You can do your own perfect animation of camera if you like to, and it all goes back to a unique text. We do see some weird shading in here. Let's get out of Auto key and select one of those seemingly problematic parts. Alt Q for isolating use of view, so I can zoom into that one. And we see the geometry itself is not broken, it's just a shading thing. So I either could do nice even lighting all around that, or we do our job and do some tricks to make everything look beautiful. So let's open up the material editor, create a new material, physical material. I select all of these pieces in here, Control A, which also selected the camera, so deselect that one with Control in here and assign the material. So everything has a nice shading. Set up the rendering. I'm going to go for the art renderer for now, and I also would like to use a bitmap lighting, so I'm going to use a bitmap and search for my HDR images, and here we get some images that are also part of 3ds Max. Let's take that one. Okay. As I put that directly into the material editor, Max is thinking along and thinks that as a texture. I would like to have that as an environment and as a spherical environment, and that undistorts that image again. So I'm going to use shortcut A or environment, and I'm going to put that into my environment, so everything is being lit by that image now. If I do a preview rendering, it looks okay, even though we don't have an exposure control set up yet. So let's put that to the physical camera exposure control. It's a bit too light, so let's change the settings on the camera itself. Something like that looks okay. And we'll have our animation more or less done. Let's go see camera view. Let's go over here. To hide these little splinters in here, we'll just do a very easy trick. I'll turn on Auto key again. I'll go to some frame over here, and we'll change the settings of the physical material to give that some emission to make it self-illuminating, which of course also again created its key on the first frame, which I'll move somewhere near here. So down here, no light, everything is fractured and torn up. And if I move back here, when the text combines to itself, we'll turn on the lighting, and now we have a nice clean text. Easy like that.